started, but we need more, and we need to implement it quicker. And therefore, the difference between the current support that NATO and NATO allies is providing to Ukraine is that that's to meet the immediate needs. Allies are providing, of course, weapons, military support. NATO is also providing a lot of non-lethal support, but that's to address the immediate needs to help Ukraine now. This program is a more long-term perspective. That is about building the institutions, helping with the transition, the interoperability, the standards, the doctrines, all of these things that we need to have in place also to move towards membership. So that's in a way the difference. Then the second question was China. Well, as a consequences, I think I will only limit myself to say that it has been made clear by several allies, also the biggest ally, that there will be severe consequences. And I think there's no reason to go into details, but China knows that there will be severe consequences if they start to provide lethal aid to Ukraine, to Russia. Sorry.
Okay, we'll go to the Kiev Independent.
Samit from the Kiev Independent. How high do you assess is the likelihood that Belarus would become a direct participant of Russia's war against Ukraine? And what do you think would encourage the Lukashenko regime to make this move? And my second question is, how have the NATO allies given enough weapons for Ukraine to launch a counteroffensive in the nearest weeks? And how many advanced Western tanks can Ukraine expect to receive from NATO allies till the end of the year? Thank you.
Well, the allies are delivering unprecedented military support to Ukraine. We have also stepped up our support over the last weeks and months, also with armored vehicles, battle tanks, but not only battle tanks, but also infantry fighting vehicles, armored personnel carriers, and a lot of support, meaning, for instance, fuel trucks, heavy systems to remove minefields and to enable the Ukrainians to cross all the defense barriers that the Russians have built up over the last months. So this is not only about the battle tanks, but all the support they need to be able to function and to operate as they should, not only for a few days, but for weeks. And therefore, this is also about sustainment, meaning providing the fuel, the ammunition, the spare parts, the maintenance capacity that need to follow and support these efforts. In totality, there is a high number. I don't have the number in my head now, but in total, there's a high number of battle tanks. Some of them are older battle tanks. Some of them are Soviet-era battle tanks, but many of them are also now modern NATO standard battle tanks. The UK has delivered Challenger. Many NATO allies have delivered Leopard 2. And then the US is also now in the process of delivering Abrams. This comes on top of for instance, the Marders, which is infantry fighting vehicles, the Bradleys, which is US infantry fighting vehicles. And it is this totality that provides the Ukrainians with the capabilities they need to retake land, to further push back the Russian forces. It is for the Ukrainians to make the operational decisions on exactly how and when. Our responsibility is to help them. On Belarus, well, Belarus has been and continues to be a platform which Russia uses in its aggressive actions against Ukraine. They launched part of the invasion from Belarus, and they have launched several airstrikes from Belarus. Our message to Belarus is, of course, that they should not be directly involved, and we will just continue to provide Ukraine with the support they need to fight against aggression and to win this war.
Okay, CDF. Thanks.
Secretary-General, I have a more general question on China. As the view on China changed, are you ready to change, or is NATO ready to change the strategic concept towards China?
No, the reality is that the strategic concept we agreed in Madrid reflects NATO's, or should I say, a new recognition of what China means for our security. Because I think we need to realize that NATO has come a long way when it comes to China. In the strategic concept we had until last summer, China was not mentioned with a single word. Then, in the strategic concept we agreed in Madrid in June last year, we made important decisions. We don't regard China as an adversary, but we state clearly in the strategic concept that China's assertive behavior poses a challenge to our interests, our values, to our security. And this is reflected in the fact that China is investing heavily in new modern capabilities, including long-range nuclear missiles. They are cracking down on democratic rights in their own country, in Hong Kong, prosecuting minorities, using social media, the internet to have surveillance of the population in a way we haven't seen at that scale any time before. The assertive behavior in the South China Sea is a challenge for the countries in the region, but also a challenge to international trade, the threats against Taiwan, and then, of course, the fact that China is coming closer to us. We see them in cyberspace, we see them trying to control critical infrastructure, and all of this. And also then, of course, that they are now working more and more closely with Russia. We see Russian-Chinese joint naval patrols, air patrols. We saw a big military exercise outside the coast of Africa. And all of this together has actually made it necessary for us to update and to develop our policies on China, and that is reflected in the new strategic concept. It is also reflected in the fact that we are now significantly strengthening our partnership with our Indo-Pacific partners, with Australia, with New Zealand, Japan, South Korea. They participated in the meeting today. For the first time ever, we invited the heads of state and government to participate in our summit last summer. And I invited the heads of state and government from Japan, New Zealand, South Korea, and Australia, also to attend our summit next summer, or this summer also in Vilnius. So put together, this is a huge effort. And let me just add, what we do on resilience, on technology, is also a way to respond to the challenges that China poses to our security.
Okay, Jon Happ. Lady here. Yeah. No, thanks.
Binna Chung from Yonhap News Agency, South Korea. Secretary General, you have urged Korea to increase its military support to Ukraine when you visited Korea last January, and saying that some countries have changed their policy to send weapons directly to Ukraine after the war. And did you raise this among today's discussion as well? And I would like what was Korea's response if you had. And regarding, if I may ask another one, regarding the NATO's non-lethal assistance package, which Japan has recently pledged, did the Vice Minister of Korea express his intention for a contribution as well today? Thanks.
First of all, I think it's for Korea to provide exact answers on their positions and what they do. What I can say is that it was a big issue when I visited Korea in January, and I've also raised it again, and I welcome the fact that South Korea has made it clear that they are ramping up production, and we need to understand that it helps that South Korea is ramping up production and delivering also to NATO allies, because then we can replenish our own stocks, and South Korea is a big producer of ammunition. And the fact that they are now delivering more and producing more to replenish the stocks of NATO allies enable us to continue to deliver to Ukraine. So I will, I will not go into the issue of exactly how or to whom South Korea should deliver. My main message is that by providing more aid to, or not aid, but also supplies of ammunition to NATO allies, they enable us to continue to support Ukraine, and I welcome the announcements made from South Korea on that.
Okay. Rai?
Thank you. My question is about migrants. Did you talk with Italian Foreign Minister Tajani about this problem? What can NATO do in that part of the Mediterranean? Thank you so much.
Well, in the meeting we had today, the issue of migration was part of the discussion, especially when we addressed the challenges emanating from the Middle East and North Africa. And of course what NATO does, and this is also something I've discussed with the Italian Foreign Minister, with the Italian Prime Minister several times, is that we are helping to support the efforts of individual allies, but also of the European Union. We have a NATO naval presence in the Aegean Sea to help to implement the agreement between Turkey and the EU on illegal migration. We are working with partners in the Middle East and North Africa. We have our presence, our training mission in Iraq to try to address the root causes. A stable Iraq, a stable Middle East is of course important also to address the root causes of the migrant challenges that Europe is facing. And we are also stepping up our cooperation and support to countries like Tunisia and Mauritania. And then, of course, we are exchanging information, we are helping each other as NATO allies. But the migrant and refugee issue is, of course, something that has to be addressed with many different tools. Many of them are outside the NATO mandate, but some of them are, and we are working with countries, Iraq, Mauritania, and others, to help to address the root causes.
Okay, Bloomberg.
Natalia Drozdiak from Bloomberg. Thank you for the question. I'm wondering whether NATO still believes that China holds sway over Russia with regards to the war in Ukraine, especially after Russia announced plans to station nuclear weapons in Belarus days after it had signed a declaration with China saying countries shouldn't station weapons abroad. Thank you.
So what we know is that Russia is more and more dependent on China. Trade with China has become even more important for Russia, not least because of the economic sanctions and the consequences of the war in Ukraine. I also believe that the announcement that they will deploy tactical weapons, nuclear weapons, to Belarus just after they signed an agreement stating the opposite, just shows that these are empty promises, and what we need to watch closely is actually what Russia is doing, and that's exactly what NATO allies are monitoring closely. So far, we haven't seen any changes in the Russian nuclear posture that requires any changes in our posture, but we remain vigilant. We will follow closely what they do. And we have increased our presence in the eastern part of the alliance to remove any room for misunderstanding, miscalculation in Moscow about NATO's readiness to protect and defend all allies. And we do that not to provoke a conflict, but to prevent the conflict, to prevent any military attack on NATO allies.
Okay, we'll take one last question from Politico.
Thank you very much, Lily from Politico. Secretary-General, did ministers discuss the arrest and continued detention of Wall Street Journal reporter Evan Gershkovich? And did they discuss any concrete steps or actions that they can take to help secure his immediate release? Thank you.
My message is that the Wall Street Journal journalists should be released, and this is about freedom of the press and the importance of journalists to be able to operate and to ask difficult questions and to do their work. And many other allies have expressed exactly the same call on Russia.
Thank you very much, colleagues. This concludes this press conference. Thank you.
Thank you.